Hello Year 4. Today is our history lesson and we are going to be learning all about William the Conqueror. There's a picture of him there, crowned as King of England. Have any of you heard of William the Conqueror? What does conqueror mean? What does it mean to conquer? You might conquer your 8 times tables. So it means to win the battle. He won the battle. He conquered something. What did he conquer? We'll find out. So let's talk about his previous life before he was king. William was born in a place called Falaise in Normandy, which is in France, around 1028. So he was French and he became King of England. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Mind you, when you think about the Queen, she does have links to Germany. Lots of her cousins were German. So let's get back to William. So his parents were Robert the Magnificent. He was a Duke of Normandy, and a lady called Herleva. She was a tanner's daughter. A tanner is someone who works with leather. So she was considered quite low class, working class, for someone that would be partnered with the Duke. So a lot of people didn't believe that William was actually legitimate and that he should not have been given his title of Duke once his father had died. Because his father died when William was only 8 years old, and he inherited his father's title, so then he was the Duke of Normandy. In 1050, he married a lady called Matilda, who was a daughter of the Count of Flanders. It was said that Matilda didn't really like him very much when she first met him, and she refused to marry him. But then they had a bit of an argument, and she rode off on a horse, and he apparently grabbed her by her hair, pulled her off her horse, and soon after they were married. Not a very nice love story, really, is it? But they did go on to have 9 children, 4 sons and 5 daughters. 2 of her sons became the future kings of England, William II and Henry I. So, how did William become the King of England? King Edward, known as Edward the Confessor, he died in January 1066. So Edward was known as the Confessor because he was very religious and he was always confessing his sins. So that was his nickname. So a new king was crowned and his name was Harold Godwinson. So Edward's now died and his reign has gone to Harold. He was the last Anglo-Saxon king to be crowned. The royal council supported him and an army was formed to defend the kingdom, as Harold believed that the Viking king of Norway, called Harald Hardrada, may invade England in the north. Because remember we talked about the Vikings, so they come from Norway, Denmark and Sweden, and they would sail and they would land north. So that's what they were afraid of. And they thought he was going to steal his throne. But William of Normandy, obviously in France, which is below England, he was furious when he heard about Harold being crowned king, as he believed that he was a rightful heir to the throne, because he said that Edward had promised him that he would be king of England one day, and Edward had no children, so he had to choose an heir. Apparently he chose Harold, but William was furious. So it was his intention to come and invade, to conquer. So let's take a break and look at the 3 possible contenders for the king. Excuse me. So you have Harold Godwinson, who's the Earl of Wessex. He's just been crowned king because William's died. Then you have William in the middle, the Duke of Normandy, who we're talking about, who insists that he was promised the king to be king. He promised it by the King Edward, who died. And then we have Harald Hardrada. He is the King of Norway and a Viking. He believes he has distant relations to the English throne and therefore he has a claim on it as well. But he's a little bit greedy. I think they're all a little bit greedy, actually, especially William, because he's already a duke in Normandy and Harold is already a king in Norway. So rightfully, it looks like Harold should be the king. So William, Conqueror, decides to invade. He did not want Harold stealing his crown, so he invades England. And you can see there, we have the bottom, we have France, and there's Normandy. So they would have gone up to the Saint-Valery-sur-Somme and they would have sailed over to Hastings, which is right in the southern tip of England. So that's where we have our battle. But meanwhile, in Yorkshire, remember Yorkshire's not too far away from where we are in Manchester, it's just very northern. So King Harold Harada did in fact invade England. He came over with 300 longboats, landing in Yorkshire with a fleet of ships. But he was defeated and killed by Harold's army at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. See there, point number 4, the Saxons defeat the Vikings at Stamford Bridge. So many of the Vikings were actually killed that they only needed 24 of those longboats to go home. When you think, he came over with 300 and sailed back with 24. That's a lot of deaths. So while King Harold was in the north of England fighting Hardrada, William of Normandy invaded Sussex in September 1066. Harold and his army had to rush back to the south of England. They'd heard that there was an invasion, but meanwhile they're up north. They have to go all the way down. Remember, they've got horseback, but their army don't have horses, not everyone. So all the soldiers have to march on foot. It would have taken weeks to get down to fight another battle. So the Battle of Hastings, remember that's where they've landed now, in 1066, is a very famous battle, and you will hear about it later on, probably at high school when you do history. So William had a well-equipped army. He had knights on horseback and archers with crossbows. Harold had a traditional Saxon army, so his housecarls fought on foot with axes, and the Fide were just farmers who fought with any weapons that they could get hold of. The Saxons literally stood no chance. So in desperation, the housecarls formed a ring around the king. So they're like just normal soldiers. They would have just been farmers, anyone who could fight. Plus, they'd been fighting in the north, and many of them had died there. So they wanted to protect the king, Harold, but they failed to protect him, and Harold was killed. Although no one knows how exactly he died, but people believe that he was shot in the eye with an arrow. The start of the Norman conquest of England, right there we have the Bayeux tapestry. It's a famous tapestry which is 70 meters long, and it's kept in Bayeux, the place in Normandy, France. It's beautiful, isn't it? It looks so long. I can't believe it's so long. I'd really like to visit Normandy so I could see that. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. William seized the throne and was crowned on Christmas Day in 1066 in Westminster Abbey. The Westminster Abbey is obviously very, very important and very famous. I think that's where Prince William got married to Kate. Could be wrong. And now he was known as William I, the King of England. It's thought that his wife Matilda created the Bayeux tapestry with her friends, and it depicts the Battle of Hastings. And there's a picture where it depicts Harold with the arrow in his eye, which that's why people think, well, maybe he did die with an arrow in his eye, but it sounds very dramatic, doesn't it? So what changes did he make? The French-speaking Normans injected new words into the Anglo-Saxon and English that still exist in our language today, words such as attorney, which is like a lawyer, beef, button, castle, chimney, duke, flowers, jury, justice, language, marriage, royal, soldier, and tailor. I bet you didn't know they were French names, did you? So William is famous also for building lots of castles and churches. Just months after coming to power, the new king began the construction of the Tower of London and the original Windsor Castle. So does that tower look familiar there? We were talking about it last week. The Tower of London, the White Tower, where the crown jewels are kept. So that's how old it is. William the Conqueror had in fact insisted it was made and built, and lots of other castles. So the Doomsday Book sounds very fierce, doesn't it? Doomsday Book. But this is what William did. He faced with the threat of another foreign invasion. He was a bit paranoid by this time. King William wanted to know how much tax he could raise if there was another war or an army. He needed to make more money. So he set out to record every person, every manor, and every animal in this country, because he believed that he owned all the land, all the animals, and basically all the people. Watch this video, which will explain the significance of the Doomsday Book, and click on the link below. So you can do that after you've listened to me on the Zoom. So the Doomsday Book is quite important, fundamental actually, because it was recording everyone, and we still do that. Every 10 years, it's called a census. So your parents would receive a letter and they have to say exactly who lives in your house, do you have any pets? It just wants to know what's going on, really. Keep an eye on us. Look at the population as well, keep an eye on the population. So William died in 1087 following an injury when he fell off a horse. He was laid to rest in Abbey aux Holmes. My French is not very good, as you know. Abbey aux Holmes in Caen in Normandy. His son William then became William II. What other William do we know now? Yes, King Charles's son William. So he will become William III because there's been no other King William since William II. So your task now, I want you to look at the attached Word document, which you should be in your files online. It's just some questions that I would like you to answer based on what the information I've just told you now and the PowerPoint. So if you want to read back, you can do, or you could, and I want you to watch that little YouTube clip about the Doomsday Book as well. It's on BBC Teach. That noise in the background is my new dog, and I'm not sure what he's doing, so I better go and have a look. If you get back to me with your answers, that would be great. Thanks, guys. See you soon.